So I thought that went well. It was fun.
Yeah, I'm sorry we didn't get through everything.
No, that's okay. That's a good problem. When your guest is a content generator like that, that just makes my job easier. You ask a question and just get lots and lots of information. I'm here for it. I'm all for that. The worst is when I ask a question and they go, "Yeah," and then they sit there and stare at you, and you're like, "Okay." And you ask another question, and they go, "Nah."
This podcast, I have the same. So it's funny because more often than not, the I'm kind of aiming for like a 45 to an hour episode. And more often than not, I've had episodes that have run really long. So I have I think it's Danuka's. It was about almost 2 hours. So I've popped stuff in the Patreon, so people can like watch the extra stuff because it was so long. But Lori, I couldn't cut it. Like his is almost an hour and a half. And I couldn't cut it. It was so, it just flowed one thing into the next, and it, cutting anything just, and it was all him. Whereas a lot of the stuff with Danuka was me, kind of like I falling out of the interview mode, and and I was like, okay, so this is what I'm doing, and it's not working, so what do I, you know what I mean? Like, it was like, and kind of sharing what I'm trying to do, which I think is valuable because it gives a little bit of, what not to do. Here's what not to do. Don't do what Joe did, because 30 years is a long time. And and so it was really kind of interesting how that's kind of gone on. And then so there's going to be kind of two ways of doing it, and one is going to just like let it play, and then other times it's like, okay, I'm going to cut this whole section and I'm just going to make a like separate little video that can be in my Patreon and just for my Patreon subscribers, and hopefully build that up, because I really need to like get that built up.
Especially now with both TikTok and now YouTube doing shorts, you could also repurpose all those extra little things for shorts.
Mm-hmm.
That would be good, so like little micro content to go out.
Yeah, so I've shifted from this streaming platform that I can't remember, the one with the duck, that you're using. I've shifted to River. Yeah, that's the one. I've shifted to Riverside. And what Riverside does, I don't know if upper paid version of this does it, but it separates my audio and my video from their audio and video, and then it also
this one does on
creates these magic. Yeah, and then it creates mini clips. So it automatically makes me shorts.
Oh, that's cool. Mine doesn't do that. That's pretty cool.
And it automatically adds text, which is cool.
Really?
Yeah,
that is cool.
But it is kind of funny.
That's on their paid service or on their free service?
It's paid. It's paid. So I got their paid version.
I'm paid street art.
Yeah, and I could go up a notch, and I could actually download the transcript, which I might do down the track if the podcast is successful, because then I can download the episodes and I can put them together into either blog posts, or I could put them together into a book or something, which I might do down the track. But I'm first going to see, because, my first episode did really well, and my second episode did not quite as well. But I've just edited the front of it, so hopefully that makes a difference. I interviewed this wonderful woman who's called Rachel Mead. She's got 2 books published. She's a poet, and she had a really interesting journey from poet to publishing, but she's not necessarily well known, and she I was opening with a really interesting clip from her, but she kind of stumbled over her words a little bit, so there was a little bit of a, not a stutter, but a little bit of a like, yeah, it happens to the best of us. And it made that particular opening maybe not so strong, which was a bit of a letdown. So I cut it out, and because you can in YouTube, and hopefully that makes a difference. But I'm really hoping Danuka's does well. And
That's
also,
cool.
Rachel's.
Yeah, it's hard, like balancing them.
Not sharing it. Yeah, Rachel's not sharing it on her own channels yet. She had something else she was promoting this week, so she's like, I will share it, but not until later. So, but you gave me a good idea. So I took the little clips, the little shorts that I've been making, and I shared them in a Dropbox with the guests, so they can share those little clips on their channels. So thank you for that idea. Nice. That was a good idea. I was like that idea. Course.
Yeah, that's a good one. It's on StreamYard. One of the things that I really like, and this doesn't necessarily help me with my live shows, but it helps with this one, for example, where it's pre-recorded. Like right now, with how far away you are in Australia, our connection, there's a little bit of a lag time. There's a little bit of a fuzziness to our quality here because of how far away we are, but it's recording on our local streams, so it's recording yours over there and it's recording mine over here, and then I'll be able to have both yours and mine separately if I want them, but also the show put together already with both of like the clearest recordings possible, without even having to edit it together myself. So yeah, that's it would be really nice if I could hit a button and get a transcript of the episode, though. That's pretty cool.
Riverside does that too. They record them separately, so I'm always which is really great, because in Australia some locations don't have, they're still on copper wire, so it can be very like there can be a lag time, there can be a delay, and there could be less quality. And I always say, like, it's gonna record it really fuzzy, but I'm gonna get a really clear picture. And what's really cool is that I had 2 episodes where something happened on the other person's end, and I didn't get their video, and I went to the help desk and they found it. So they have a backup.
Nice.
So it happened with Emma. I lost Emma's whole side of her conversation, so all I had was me, and then like ... and I'm like, that's not helpful. That meant that I didn't get the transcript, and I didn't get the text underneath. And also the other thing that happens in there is really cool is when you do have the text, you can search for a word. So I have a tradition where I have the last guest ask the next guest, not knowing who it is, the question, and so I can cool. But then I'm like, I need to like send it to the next guest. Like, I like to give them a heads up what the question is, because they're usually quite hard. So then I'll like search the transcript, I search for question, and then it'll like give me all the times we said question, and then I can like, okay, there it is. So great.
That sounds awesome.
So great. Yeah, it's so great. I love it. I love it.
It's called Riverside.
Yeah. There's a link in my latest video at the bottom.
I'll check it out.
But I can send it to you as well. Yeah, it's great. I love it.
Out for sure. All right.
And if you click my link, it's affiliate, so I might even get some love there.
There you go. Okay, I'll be sure to do that. We finished the Writer's Den today talking about your podcast. I wanted to ask you about this. You don't just do it on the podcast. You're doing it right now. You stand in your videos. You stand in your streams. Talk to me about this, because I now regret even buying this desk, because I'm like, now I want to do that. I want to be standing here, and I can't because everything's going to be too low. Talk to me about standing in your videos and your streams. What is that about?
Well, I have a standing desk, which I treated myself to this year. which I've wanted for a long time. I actually have a walking desk. So I have a little tiny it's called a walk pad. It's like a treadmill, but it doesn't have the treadmill part, and it's just under my desk here. I tried walking. I can walk and write at the same time. I walk and check emails. But I tried walking on a stream. It's loud. It's so loud. It makes it like and so I'm like, okay, well, I can't walk. Yeah, it's so loud. But because so when you're once you're diagnosed with a neural divergency, oftentimes it's hard to get a second diagnosis because you rank high for everything. So I rank very high for autism, and I rank very high for ADHD or ADD, as we used to call it. And but we're not sure if that's because I'm dyslexic, because there's so little known about being dyslexic. It's not just about like you flip your letters. It's much more complicated than that.
It's not just
I always yeah.
I have a friend
Anyway,
who he's dyslexic with numbers and colors. So like if you show him a number, he sees a color, and then he has to like think about like, what number is that color.
That's a different thing. Yeah, that's actually
What's
a
that?
different
Because
thing. That's golly,
he described it to me as a form of dyslexia. That's how he described it.
Oh my goodness! I will find that word for you, because I've got a friend who does that as well, and there are certain things that have colors for me as well, but it's not dyslexia. It's aphasia. I want to say.
Isn't aphasia the one where you can like see sounds or like hear colors or whatever?
It's all kind of the same thing.
Interesting. Okay.
Because
for him it was specifically numbers. It was specifically like that's the only thing that it would happen with. It's interesting.
Yeah, so I have my friend actually not only sees colors, but the color has a sound. So the number 7 is this sort of orangey peach color, and it's loud and it hurts her ears. It's so crazy. Like, it's insane.
Interesting. That's wild.
I think, yeah.
So many different brains in the world, huh?
Synesthesia, and that's specifically grapheme synesthesia. Yeah. So, yeah.
Okay.
So,
interesting.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, when he told me this, we were in high school. That was 20 years ago. So they probably learned a lot more about this.
Yeah.
And discovered, it's not dyslexia after all. It's this other thing. Interesting.
Yeah.
It's always
evolving.
But new layers.
Dyslexia. There's different kinds of dyslexia. There's numerical dyslexia, and there's all sorts of different kinds of dyslexia. I have a pretty, I don't want to say severe, but it's extreme. So mine is everything, and I always kind of describe it, because autism gets a lot more, like, it has a better marketing manager. If autism is like hyper focused on everything, and it's like super detailed, dyslexia is like the opposite. It's like, that's decoding. I can't decode. So I can't decode social situations. I can't decode like spelling. I could, like, my name is Joe. If I don't put the O, or at least imagine the O next to the J, I will put my J. I will not know which way to draw my J. Another way I describe it is,
I can kind of get what you mean by that.
So if you've got a table, like, you got the desk in front of you. If I turn that desk on its side, or I turned it upside down, or I turned it backwards, you'd probably still be able to identify it as a desk, because you learned that was a desk when you were young. That would be that's the way I am with letters. Like, it doesn't have a right way around. So what happens is I do more flipping this way than this way. I do flip this way, but like, so N and U, like a small N and a U, I will flip those. I will flip an M and a W.
I can see it.
I will flip an M. I will write a W instead of an M in my name, and not me too. I do it when I type.
I'll bet
that really fascinated me
that means that
when I started typing.
Q's and P's.
P's and Q's, P's and Q's, and B's and D's drive me nuts.
Yeah.
But I do it when I type. So I'll be typing. I'll be writing and typing, and I'll get a spell check. Like, I'll get a little line. I love spell check. A little line under my word and go, what's wrong with that word? And I'll look at it and I'll look at it and look at it and I go, oh, I spelled pizza with a B. That's why. You know? And I'm typing. It's not pizza. Like I'm... Yeah. Another one that's hilarious is that I'll be like, oh, what's that place? Paul, what's that place? Like, my husband will, like, what's that place? It starts with a B. It starts with a B. And he's like, we went there on holiday, and he's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And I'm like, and then I'll finally remember. I go, Canberra. He's like, it does not start with a B. I'm like, well, it has a B in it.
Yeah, not at all. The B is somewhere in it. You should have known what I meant.
Exactly. All
right. I want to touch on something we didn't get to talk about at all on the Writer's Death. Excuse me. And that's the AWC 2023. You had an incredible talk on data-driven writing, and
thank you.
I wanted to pick your brain a little bit about that entire presentation. First off, the research, prep, and outlining that must have gone into it. What kind of research did you do for it? Because it seemed like you had really done your homework.
I mean, a lot of that is I was just sharing what I've learned through my marketing background, and I geek out so much on Think Media, vidIQ, oh golly, I'm Film Booth, Nate Black, who recently left Channel Makers. So okay. I'm such a fangirl of those guys. They are just so much fun and interesting, and they practice what they preach, especially Ed from Film Booth. So Ed from Film Booth will tell you to make it a story in the video, and he makes it a story as he's telling you to make a story. It's very meta, which I really enjoy. I really like, I just love their presence, and I love how honest they are. And so I follow them. Before them, I was following Vanessa Lau, who has taken a looks like a permanent sabbatical, and from YouTube and stuff, which is kind of sad because she was really, really fun to watch. But I love all those creators that are showing you how to succeed at YouTube. But it's not that different from basic marketing in that. It's definitely, marketing's changed a lot. So when I started, we were keyword stuffing. It's pre-Google, pre-bots, all that stuff was crawling through stuff. And you just get your keyword in as much as possible and try and make it legible. Mm-hmm. Now that's considered black hat marketing. Now we're moving more and more and more towards trying to give people what they want. And at its basic level, from my view, marketing is understanding a problem, solving that problem, and letting people know that you can solve that problem with an added value. So someone walks into my husband's bookstore, it is because they are looking for something to read. They probably know they're looking for something to read by the time they've walked into the bookstore, but they may not know what they need or what they want to read. But ultimately, they're trying to solve a problem in that They're trying to find either escapism or information, or there's a problem that they believe the book will sell. What's nice about having a bookstore is that books have pretty good marketing in that they will solve a lot of problems, and you don't have to sell people on that. The problem with YouTube is that it's newer and not everybody knows. Not everybody knows that it will, what problems it will solve, and it also has some negative marketing in that it creates problems. Books don't suffer from that. So you're trying to figure out what your audience is looking for, what problem they're trying to solve, and how your videos solve that problem. So, are you an entertainment video? Are you, like, are they bored? Are you trying to entertain them? Are they looking for company? A lot of author tubers have found, I've noticed recently, that their viewers are looking for company. That's why we have so many of these Write With Me now. Those are new. We didn't have those a few years ago. Those are crazy. And I know that some of the author tubers have started it because they want to write more, but people are joining them because they want the accountability and the company while they write, and they want the community.
Yeah.
So I feel like AuthorTube has definitely found its
Jenna
niche in writing.
was not a live streamer. She pretty much exclusively did videos, and now she's doing writing sprints, several times a week. Yeah, the whole like sprinting together thing is huge right now. It's growing bigger and bigger.
And I did start it. Unfortunately, I remember I started it about the same time as Emma, and she took off with it and I didn't. And the results are she did really well and I did not. So she made a good choice. I did not make such a good choice.
I don't like doing them. I don't like doing the sprints because I don't get any work done. I'm so concerned with putting on the show of the sprints for everybody else that I don't get any work done. And meanwhile, sprinting is how I get my work done. I just, I'll go into the Discord server and I'll set up the printer, the sprint bot, and I'll get my writing done that way. But actual like running an actual sprint thing, I don't even do them on my channel. I've done them a couple of times, and all of them I'm like, I don't get anything done. I'm just talking to people online, and
I had a pretty successful one with Emma, and I'm sure that's because people are coming for Emma. Like, she's become a bit of a rock star. I personally don't get as much work done as well, and my problem is time zones. So I write best in the morning. My creative time is in the morning. And in the morning is nighttime in the States, and I thought that would work, but apparently it doesn't. Other people want to do it in the morning too, and I'm not like nighttime is not a good time for me. I can't even start until after 8:30 because I got to make sure my child is in bed and staying there, and then I'm just done. So, but I did through this find that podcasts are a thing that YouTube is pushing right now. So I thought, well, I have the, I was looking for a podcast, I couldn't find it. I've since found that there is other podcasts. Searching for my own on Spotify, I was like, oh, there are other ones that are publishing, but I didn't find them when I was looking for them. And I'm like, hey, well, this is something that I would like to do, and I would like to find, and I'm enjoying it, and hopefully it does well. Like I said, that first video didn't go viral for me, but was definitely a high-performing video. The Rachel's episode didn't do quite as well, but her shorts are doing really well. So the shorts that have come out since, the clips from those did really well. So hopefully they continue to grow. And I mean, if they don't, then they don't. then you just try something else. Because I'll just
Yeah.
keep trying. I'm not going to give up because I don't give up. I may not keep trying on YouTube forever, but I will keep trying to be a creative, full-time creative forever. I will.
Yeah.
Because
When I
I am.
when I started the YouTube thing and on AuthorTube and everything, of course, I was seeing the juggernauts like Jenna Moresi and hearing her story of like making it on YouTube, and now she's a full-time author, and she was able to quit her old day job that she hated, and I'm like, I want to quit my day job that I hate. So like, here I am on YouTube trying to do what she did, and I very quickly realized I don't do what she does, and therefore I can't expect to do what she did. She's got this how to basically kind of channel going on, and I didn't feel qualified to do that. I'm not going to go on there as an unpublished author and be like, I'm going to tell you how to do it. Like, that just didn't feel right to me. It didn't feel genuine. So I was like, so then I thought, well, then the focus of my channel should be to learn, then to become a better writer. And by doing this, by forming a community of folks around me, hopefully I'll have some readers waiting for my book for when it's done. And so it took me 3 years to write the book, and so those 3 years were spent on YouTube, growing the community or whatever, and it worked out. I didn't blow up like Jenna Moresi, though. And like you said, I'm not going to give up on it. I'm going to keep working hard. But I also know that YouTube is not. I'm not going to sell a bunch of books on YouTube. I need to also find other ways to sell my books. I need to get the stuff on TikTok selling books, the stuff on Instagram, the Amazon ads, the Facebook ads. I got to do all that stuff, and it would be unrealistic to expect to sell a bunch of books through the YouTube thing. But I still want to do it because now I have a whole community of friends on here and other creative folks that I, care about and respect their stuff. And like, some of these books here are written by friends of mine. That's wild to me. Like, I have books on the shelf and I know those authors. That's crazy. So yeah, it's trial and error and regrouping and erasing the drawing board and starting again. Like, it's all part of it.
Absolutely.
What would you say are some of the
Absolutely.
biggest benefits of the whole data driven writing thing?
So I mean, I'm trying it, but basically what I think is that if you don't, like, if you just want to write for yourself, then write for yourself. Like, people have done it for centuries. It's fine. But if you want to write and you want to hit a market, then you need to know what the market's looking for. So one of the things I talked about with a few people on the podcast, Danuka, who's coming up this week, we talked about it, is that you can write a fantastic book, but if it's not what the market is looking for, it won't do well. So, like, she's in crime novels go through a cycle. So there'll be like a really gritty, really dark, really like violent kind of crime novel that's really publishing well, and then it'll like flip and the wheel will turn and it'll be all cozy murder mysteries, and then it'll flip again. And if you try and get in,
Only Murders in the Building.
Yeah.
That cozy.
Yeah. So if you try and get if you try and get into that wheel, that at the wrong time, then you're out of luck. And actually,
that also means that you're
going
to have ups and downs in your sales too. Like, go through phases.
Yeah. So I spoke to Katja from the Novel Factory in episode 1, and she wrote a middle grade novel, and it was great. And everybody said, if you had given me this 2 years ago, everybody would have been fighting for it and snatched it up. But that ship has sailed, and nobody's looking for this now. Sorry. Doesn't matter how good it is. And that's disheartening. That sucks. And that is maybe an argument for indie publishing, as we said. because, you know, like the thing of this stuff may never find a home in traditional publishing because it's a little too weird. It's too long for a YA novel. It's too middle grade for a YA novel. It's it's about a neurodivergent trans kid, which is maybe, you know, the world is heading that way, but maybe not quite there yet. And so, you know, it may never find its home.
Hang on to it for when that wave comes back around.
Yeah,
You
but
might still be able to get it in there.
but
You know?
yeah, it's super fun, and I love it, and I love those characters, and I would hate
Sounds
for
fun.
them to, you know, never come out. So yeah,
Here's
so
a thought,
maybe
and
you know.
I don't know nothing, so don't, you know.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
is there a world where maybe you rework those characters, that story, that plot, that world into a more focused category? Because you could just make it more YA, you know, rewrite it, just make it more YA, or make it more middle grade, or whichever one that you're trying to like go for, so that it's not teetering on that edge anymore. Like, obviously, I know that you're onto other projects and writing other things. I'm just
Yeah,
spitballing here off the top of
it's
my head. Yeah.
no, actually, you're not the first. My husband said the same thing. He said that does feel more middle grade, maybe, but it's too long for middle grade, too complicated for middle grade. It would be a page one rewrite.
Break it up into 2 books.
But he he said that, you know, read some middle grade, and see, like, do you like that space? And I do. So I started reading Spooks by Joseph Delaney, and I loved it, and I was really enjoying it. And my daughter came along and sat down beside me and said, read to me, Mommy. So I just started reading where I was in the book, and then she wouldn't let me read it without her anymore, and she wants to read it, and so we're reading it together, which is going way slower than even with me reading, which is, you know,
She has hijacked the whole.
She did. Yeah. She hijacked it. But I do love that space, and yeah, it would be much more marketable, and definitely something to do. But it would be hard work. It would be hard work. I don't know how you find it, but when you have a project that's finished, to tell yourself, I'm gonna have to go and like do it again, but do it different.
Yeah. No,
like
that
you know,
does not sound like fun to me.
So it's probably what needs to happen.
You know what? That project's dead.
Probably something needs to happen, and maybe something that I would be like, because I don't like giving up on stuff. I do not like quitting, so I would probably do it just out of spite. Like, fine, I'll write it again. I've already.
I'm gonna make it work.
I'm gonna make it work,
Yeah.
but not me today. So I don't know. Maybe me next year.
I did this thing where you have written a novel a year for years. I wrote the same story for years. I wrote for 7 years. I worked on what I wanted to be a big like graphic novel series, and in the beginning I plotted the story out with some buddies of mine. We all got together as like a writer's room kind of deal, and we were, you know, one of us was an artist, so we were going to have an artist lined up. Like we were ready to like make this a thing. And the whole plan was we would come up with the story together, but then when it came down to writing the scripts, that would fall on me as the writer. And so when that finally came to me, I spent 6 years trying to write those scripts and trying to make them something worthy of that writer's room and those creative people that I was working with and the artist that was going to draw it. And I just was not a good enough writer to accomplish that. And I spun my wheels for years and years, and everybody's like, yo, man, where are the scripts? And I'm like, I'm working on them any day now. And, you know, total George Martin situation, like, just, it's not coming. And finally I had to be honest with myself and put it aside and be like, you know what, I'm just going to stop pretending that I'm working on this thing, and I'm going to do something else, and I'm going to cut my teeth on something else. I'm going to become a better writer. I'm going to come back to this thing when I can actually do something with it. And it was just so much. It was freeing, and I was able to actually write a thing and finish it and put it out there, and hence I now have a novel that is actually in stores. It's bananas. It's wild. What about implementation of the whole data-driven writing into NaNoWriMo? Because I know that having written a novel a year for a few years, you probably are one of those folks that wins at NaNoWriMo. So what can you tell me about that? The data-driven writing and how you can kind of write a whole novel in a month.
So last year was the first year I think I actually won NaNoWriMo, and I hadn't finished. I just had a 0 draft. As it turns out. And it wasn't actually a complete 0 draft. So I had written 50,000 words, but I had not written a full novel. So I'd gotten about to the mid-build, the climax, I think, of the mid-build. And that was the Cinderella story, which I then was almost a page 1 rewrite. So some of that original stuff stayed, but it was almost a page 1 rewrite this year. And I think it was this idea of TK, which I got from StoryGrid. So TK is just, as I said, stands for to come. It is spelled wrong on purpose. It is not because I'm dyslexic. That's an editing thing. And I talk about a lot on my channel about this thing. And basically, it gives me permission that if I get stuck, if I spend more than 10 minutes on something, then I hit TK and I move on. And this made a huge difference in my life because I have spent, no word of a lie, 4 hours on a sentence. Because I wanted the sentence to be funny, and I wanted it to be joke, and I didn't want it to be a cliche, and I didn't want to have heard it before, and I spent 4 hours on a sentence to make a joke that made me laugh. And it didn't, even after 4 hours. And even if I had succeeded, do you think that one sentence in the middle of my novel was going to be like the make or break moment and get like the reader like, I love this book? Like, no, it's not. They don't care. Like, one sentence is not a make or break moment. Like, it was a waste of time. And
even if there is a sentence that is a make or break moment, it's not the one that you think it's going to be. It's going to be the one that comes out of left field that you didn't even think about when you wrote it. You just spat it out, and they're going to be like,
"This such a waste of time.
I have it tattooed on my butt because it's fantastic, and I live my life by this quote from your book," and you're just like, I don't even remember writing that.
So what I'm doing right now in filling in these gaps that were TK before, this is what I used to do. Is it used to like agonize over it. I'm gonna agonize. I need this scene to work. I'm gonna sit down here and make this scene work. And it's taken me a week and a half. You can't do that during Nano. You can't spend a week and a half on 2,000 words if you want to win Camp Nano or NaNoWriMo. You can't. You have to put that aside, say it's good enough for now, come back later, and go on. And that's what I did last year. And like I said, that was almost a page 1 rewrite, but I still won NaNoWriMo. But it was definitely, the novel I chose was definitely strategic. So I had been writing fantasy. Now, you asked me at the beginning of your interview, and I never answered how I got into writing. So I actually learned to read by writing. So when I was 10 years old, I still wasn't reading, because I'm dyslexic, still am. And I decided, still couldn't read, decided I was going to write a magazine, because that's me. So I spent my whole summer vacation inside at the dining room table crafting magazine, which was very poorly titled Panda Bear Magazine, because it had nothing to do with panda bears. It was about my family, and I interviewed my aunts, and I put in family recipes and articles, and that's how I learned to read, by writing. That's what my mom says anyway. I remember her telling me how to spell remember, which is ironic. I can actually remember the smell of, she was baking. I can remember the smell of that in the kitchen. I can remember the light coming through the dining room. It's my actually strongest memory of that house that we lived in at the time. I remember the pencil, how it felt when I was writing on the paper. It is a sense memory, and she was saying the words, and I still, when I need to write remember, that memory reminds me how to spell remember. It's like I memorized how to spell this word. I still feel that.
I do get that, because every time I have to spell the word beautiful, I always hear Jim Carrey in Bruce Almighty in my head. Like I always, like, I spell it out the way he says it, beautiful, every time. Like every time I write the word beautiful, I hear that and relive like being a kid watching that movie. I totally get that. That memory is tied in to the spelling of that word.
Exactly. So by the end of the summer, I could read, and then they gave me some really crappy books to read, and that the crappy books continued until it really makes me angry, because I have learned since that there were available some amazing books for middle grades and young readers, but after one book from Roald Dahl, they decided, I mean, the Ramona series weren't that bad, but then very quickly it was Ciclet, and I got all these like, Baby Amy is dying, and If I Die Before I Wake, and all these like really, anyway. So fast forward a couple of years, I'm 14 years old. I decided I'm going to write a novel, as you do. So I've been writing and reading for 4 years. I've only been in the literary space for 4 years. And I'm 14 years old. And I decided to write a novel. And it's Ciclet. And it was called The Typewriter Walker. And it is really bad. And it's unfinished. And so I decided I'm going to be a novelist. I'm going to be a novelist. And it is take your kid to work day. And everybody else in school is going to work with mom and dad. I'm like, well, I don't want to be a teacher, which is my mom, and I don't want to be whatever dad does, because I didn't know what my dad did, but I didn't want to do it. He was an engineer, but I had in my head that you could be a teacher, a lawyer, a businessman, or a ballerina, and I'm like, well, I'm going to be a writer. Like, these are the choices. I don't like them. I'm going to be a writer. Seriously, career day, very important for kids. Because when you're dyslexic, this is the messaging you don't understand. It's like you get this messaging and it gets mistranslated in your head. Anyway, then I decided I'm gonna go. So I emailed, or no, the email doesn't exist. I called or wrote a letter to Scholastic. I must have written a letter to Scholastic Books and said I wanted to go for a day to Scholastic Books because I wanted to be a writer, and they said yes. Again, more guts than brains. And so instead of going to work with my mom or my dad, I went to Scholastic Books with my little lunchbox and spent a day with an editor from Scholastic Books. And at the end of my day, it's like, I wrote a novel. You read it? And they're like, sure. First 3 chapters. That is all there was. There was not a chapter 4. There was only 3 chapters of my novel. It had not been proofread. It hadn't even been read. I hadn't even read this thing. I think I'd reread the opening paragraph. But that's it. This is a pantser novel by a 14-year-old kid who's dyslexic, never been proofread, handed to a editor at Scholastic Books. And I got the most lovely rejection letter. It was gorgeous. Apparently my dialogue was really good, but my descriptions and my narration were needed a little bit of work. And I was so proud of that rejection letter. I was just so proud. It was so lovely. Keep going, Joanne, they said. So I went to camp that year and I took my little novel, my little 3 chapters again, and I gave them to my friends to read. And like the rooting thing I talked about in the live thing, I had said, I think I had met patting, like pat her head, like that, but I misspelt it petting.
Okay.
And a
Different
14-year-old
context.
boy read this. Yeah. So a 14-year-old boy read this and just thought, yes, see, and gave me some feedback that was about as sensitive as a 14-year-old boy gets. And I never
Sensitivity readers are very important. That was your first lesson there. Sensitivity readers, beta readers, critique partners,
yes.
all very important.
So I was actually going through talking about this recently, and I went, you know what? That is why I have no fear of rejection. I will send out emails and messages and novels and short stories, and I have no fear of rejection. You know why? Because that first moment of rejection was so lovely. But you know what I don't like doing? Beta readers. I never do beta readers. Ever.
Not at all, huh?
Never. I'll pay an editor. I'll ask my mom or my husband, but otherwise,
I like doing beta.
no
I
beta
like
readers.
doing beta readers.
Why?
And here's why. here's why I like it. Specifically because of the whole Google Docs thing. I like the idea of testing something out on an audience, gauging their reactions, seeing if their reactions are what I intended, or if more commonly it's misread and I'm like, no, I need to rework that because it's not coming off the way. So I like seeing their reactions in the margins. Like they'll leave me like little notes or whatever, like theories that they're coming up with because it's a murder mystery. So every time there's a clue, they're like, oh, I think that this means that so and so, and then didn't we see a guy at the saloon that had a thing? Like they'll put all that in there, and I'm just like, yes, dance, puppets, dance. So it's like an interactive thing that I feel like I can do with readers that you don't get when they just pick your book up off a shelf, read it in the privacy of their own home, and then maybe write a review and maybe not. Like, who knows what their experience was like? I want to know what the reader experience is like. So that's my purpose for beta readers. It's not to find typos or to like I'm not
that's not what it's
structuring
for.
my novel based on their feedback. It's about like what are they feeling? What are they thinking? Joe, I'm so sorry, but we have run out of time.
I've got a recording error. Error. Yeah.
Oh, you know what? When you signed on, it warned me that you don't have a lot of memory left on your side. So don't worry about it because it's going to record on my side anyway. So we're okay.
Oh, okay. All right.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for joining me for both shows. This has been great. It's fun. And we're going to have to collaborate more because there's obviously so much more to talk about. I wish I had more time.
Oh, it would be great. That'd be great. I love it. Thank you for having me.
My kids went off to the pool when the show started, and now I can hear them like running through the house and screaming, and I'm just like, you know what? It's time to go. All right,
well,
Joe, thank you so much again. School, so. Yes, go and do your Australian side of things. Enjoy that, and thank you again. And for everybody watching this on Friday,
thank you.
Leave a comment down below. Thank you for watching. Join me in the chat, and see you Tuesday for Tuber Book Club, and then the following. Tuesday for Tuber Book Club. That's the next thing. Yes. Okay, that's it. All right, see you guys then. Right on, writers. Yeah.
Cause I'ma live life for the fight, yeah, I'm here to get it. I got drive, got sight, always have a vision. I go by at night, I be in my feelings. I'ma be fine, need time, and I'll soon be winning. I live life